This is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast. This is VP. We are a solutions-based podcast, diving into the world of contrarian investing and alternative finance. You can find us hosted on the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel, nononsenseforex.com, and podcast players everywhere. Episode 191 is brought to us by Bybit. Now, Europeans, Bybit is slowly creeping back into your hearts and minds. They are now allowed in France once again. So all my French listeners, if you want back in, now's a really good time. Bybit is also applying for a MiCA license, which will get them access to the full European Union, which is really great. So stay tuned for that news. I will let you know as it occurs. But to my current French listeners right now, if you would like back in to the best trading platform in all the world with all the benefits it gives you, go down, click on the link to the Bybit blog, read it. At the very bottom is my affiliate link. Click on that, and you are into the ecosystem once you deposit and start trading. It is great to have you back, and hopefully it will be great to have the entire European Union back because, as they know as well, with Bybit, membership has its rewards. It is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast, and it's just a shame that Saturday morning has to follow Friday night because sometimes I go out, and sometimes, every once in a while, I just completely overdo it. And then the scheduling for my media gets pushed, which I really don't like. I want to thank everybody for being very patient with me. When you're on two people's schedule, it can sometimes really get delayed, which is what we're experiencing now with the Indicator Profile series. So I also appreciate you being patient there. At the end of the day, I don't think most people even really care like when this stuff comes out or at what consistency, but I do. And if you have your own media, if you're not the one upholding a standard, then who's going to, right? So I just want to take the time to thank everybody for being patient with the later schedule of some of these videos and podcasts. But today we are revisiting rare earth minerals. Now, if you want more of kind of what they are and what they do and what they're used for, I've already done one podcast on this. Go to the podcast player of your choice or go to YouTube and go to the search bar and type in rare earths and it should pop right up. But what I wanted to do today was talk about a stock that I bought and tell you why I bought it. Now again, I am not a signal service. I am not a licensed financial advisor. I don't even have to tell you what I'm buying. I just choose to more often than not, definitely with crypto because I said I would, but then sometimes in the stock world as well. And this is going to be one of those times. So, I'm sure you've been maybe not following it, but you've definitely been seeing what the Trump administration has been doing so far. They've done a lot. That guy hasn't even been in office a full month yet, and it seems like he's already served an entire term with all that he is doing and all that he is uncovering. It's really, really something. I always had suspicions that there were organizations behind this. I just didn't know exactly where to point the finger. I have a feeling most people knew. Who didn't know that there was a lot of dirt being done behind the scenes and how there are shadow organizations responsible for the majority of wars and censorship and things like that. And they just got too big for their britches, and we elected a populist president with an axe to grind, and now all is coming out. And they said they are only 1% of the way done. So it's pretty wild. But I'm telling you, with organizations like this, hopefully out of the way, the president and the government overall can now do its job. You know, the thing we elect them to do. And you've heard me say in the past on this show, not just during the Trump administration, but during the Biden administration as well. It's like, hey, this is what the government wants, and that's a pretty good thing to have in your corner. Now, the interesting thing about that is during the Biden administration, I was usually wrong because there were a lot of green initiatives getting pushed. And so I thought that was a nice advantage and a nice time to enter that market. But at the end of the day, you can't really go against science. And at the end of the day, green energy just doesn't really work that well. So there goes that. But I have said as well with Donald Trump how they have built this entire ecosystem around crypto and are pretty much staking the success of their presidency on this. And I don't think you can really understate how important that is and just how bullish that is. Because if there's one thing we're learning about this administration is, one, they get things done. And two, they pretty much do what they say they're going to do. Now, sometimes it is a leverage play, like with tariffs, for example, as of right now. I think we're still going to see tariffs, but so far, Donald Trump is doing what he is supposed to do. He is playing, in poker parlance, big stack poker. Forever now, we have had, in the United States, we've had the big stack, but we played it like we had nothing. And every other country got these super lopsided deals and barely had to pay for anything. And now that is going to get reversed. And when you take a look at just how dependent some of these countries are, the majority of countries are actually, as when it comes to what they import from the United States, they really don't have a lot of leverage. And so when you have the small stack, and the guy who wrote the book on negotiations comes in and wants something, he's probably going to get it, no matter how outlandish it seems. Now, the big outlandish things right now are the United States taking over Greenland and possibly Canada and Panama. Now, those last two, I still do not see happening. And I hope they don't happen. I want Canada to remain Canada. I certainly want Panama to remain Panama. As most of you guys know, I'm a resident of Panama. And I would hope I didn't go through all that for nothing. I mean, I certainly didn't see something like this coming. But they have a great culture. It's such a wonderful, unique place. I would hate to see it be overtaken by a country. I don't even know how would you even do that legally? I don't think you can. But anyway, as I said before in a previous episode, though, Contrarians, the Greenland thing really has legs, and I'll tell you why. So Greenland is currently owned, I guess, by Denmark. And Greenland, also, if you didn't know, is if they were their own country, I think they would be 6th or 7th in the world when it comes to rare earth mineral production. And this is the main reason why the United States wants it. It does also serve as a bit of a defensive buffer, I guess, between the U.S. and Russia. But that's not the main reason why the United States wants it. They understand just how important rare earth minerals are, and when places like China are hoarding the majority of it, and you are not best friends with China, that's a bit of a problem. Remember, it's all about negotiation and leverage at the end of the day. And in the rare earth arena, the United States is severely lacking. And for what we're trying to do, we're trying to double the industrial complex in the States. We're trying to build things again. And this sounds absurd to a lot of people. Why are we going back to the 1960s? Well, because we were doing really, really well in the 1960s, and we let that drop off over time. But we're going to need rare earths to do all the things we want to do, and they are so important, and they are so rare, hence the name, that we need to get them from wherever we can, and Greenland seems to be a very easy target here. So Denmark does own mining interests in Greenland, as do the Chinese. I'm not sure if most people were aware of this. Some of these corporations have Danish names, but they are Chinese-owned. Now, Greenland, also, if you didn't know, it has a population of about 57,000 people, and they have one of the highest suicide rates in the world. Now, a lot of things contribute to this, the darkness, the cold, things like that, the isolation. But the money situation is not helping. Word is that Greenlanders, I guess, is that what you call them? Greenlanders, don't receive any of the money from these mining operations. Like, imagine if just a little bit went to the country itself and for infrastructure and jobs and everything, right? But none of it does. So that's why when this was first introduced, Denmark is like, yeah, it's not for sale. But people in Greenland were like, oh, please, please, please come take us over. Now, just because Denmark says it's not for sale doesn't mean we can't come in and give them a sweetheart of a deal. And believe you me, they are going to take it. We've seen this already with Canada and Mexico. There's tough talk. So it's really posturing. It's just so they don't look weak in front of their own countrymen. But not even 3 hours later, a deal pretty much gets done, and they capitulate. Now, assuming this happens, a lot of those mining operations are going to go away, and new ones will be installed. Now, I don't know how much you know about the mining business. I don't claim to know a ton, but I do know that if you're coming in fresh with brand new operations and geological surveys and equipment and things like that, you're not going to be up and running for years. It's just a matter of how many at that point. And so in the meantime, where are you going to get these rare earths from? Well, we have a good relationship with Australia. That's going to help. We have a good relationship with Vietnam, who is in the top 5 of rare earth production. But it is way easier and way cheaper just to simply get it yourself from the companies you have. We spoke about this in the lithium episode. There's really only one major lithium company in the United States, Lithium Americas Corporation, ticker symbol LAC. And even though there are Australian companies that I prefer overall, my charts are telling me we're getting really close to buy time when it comes to lithium. And when that occurs, I'm probably just going to buy LAC. And there are 2 reasons for this. One, like I said before, a business should be booming if the overall price of the underlying asset goes up. But here's another thing that we've never talked about on this show, and I feel like I should have at some point. But if you guys are in the metals mining arena now, you know all too well that most of the companies you buy are going to be non-U.S. companies. They're going to be foreign companies because that's just where most of the gold and silver is, and copper and uranium, all those things. And you may also wonder why a lot of those stocks seem to underperform, especially now. Like, even the ones that are doing well, like they could be doing a lot better. But there is also, Forex traders, currency risk you run with foreign companies. There have been a handful of companies in places like Turkey, in places like South Africa, that I have been very interested in but stayed away from because the currency is such a disaster out there. And I do think in the future, because again, this is what Trump wants, that the dollar is going to go down. If we're going to accomplish what we're looking to accomplish in the United States, this really has to happen. And if you remember my prediction too, at the very beginning of this year, I predicted the value of the dollar to be lower than it was at the beginning of the year. But then, soon after that, somebody said something that made me want to change my answer. In my mind, the number one foreign currencies guy in the world right now, Brent Johnson, author of the Dollar Milkshake Theory, was being interviewed, and he said that, yeah, the value of the dollar is going to drop, but not while we're building. And I didn't quite understand the correlation there, but he seemed pretty confident, and he's pretty good at stuff like this. So we may see a strong dollar for a while. And for us in the United States, or United States citizens, that's great. But if you're holding foreign stocks, that is less great. And really, as contrarian investors, we have foreign stocks, we have crypto, we have domestic stocks. All of those things tend to go up when the dollar goes down. So it's really going to be good for everybody. But we may not see it right away. And if we don't, and there is a domestic choice for me to choose, I'm going to go that route. And so it is for this reason that about a week and a half ago, I bought MP Materials, ticker symbol MP, which is the only rare earth company in the United States, that's listed. My monthly chart said go. Seeking Alpha likes it. Schwab freaking hates it for what it's worth. But if you sit there and wait for all the lights to turn green as far as those analysts go, you're never going to buy anything. So sometimes you have to take a bit of a chance there. But I thought I would point that out. I think Seeking Alpha gave it really nice grades across the board, and Schwab gave it an F. Now, historically, has it been the most well-run company? No, it has not. Is it in California, which is a tough place to mine? Yes, it is. But at the end of the day, once things get going, is it going to even matter? I don't think it will. So is this the most confident buy I've ever made? No, it's not. But I want a piece of this space. I've always wanted a piece of this space. And with the patience as an investor that I have, I feel like now is a good time to make a buy, as it will be a good time to buy lithium pretty soon here. And as a bonus, there may be a bit of recessionary protection here. A lot of people say if we're going to spend money like this and we're going to build, then you can expect the economy to go down. And when it finally does, we are going to have a good time here on the 10-Minute Contrarian podcast, because there's going to be a lot to talk about. Mainly, how to protect the money you have, and if there are any opportunities in a recession to actually build wealth, because historically there have always been. Now, your base metals and wherever rare earths even fall into, I don't know, typically do really, really well on the recovery side. I can't wait for the recovery. I am going shopping for many, many things. I am converting a lot of my USD into AUD because if you just look and see what the Aussie dollar loves to do, it loves to go crazy during recoveries. That's going to be a fun time. But if I am going to buy anything nowadays, it's pretty much going to be to gear up or at least just have a bit of downside protection should this recession happen in the year 2025. My main priority has been stacking dollars, looking for places to gain yield on those dollars, and buying things that have the potential to do really well should the United States get this whole train back on track. And it looks like we're going to. The big question really is when. But as Rick Rule said, I would rather be years early than a day late. So while MP has not been the greatest company in the world and not many investors are looking at it or even talking about it, maybe they just can't make the correlation, or maybe they don't understand why Trump wants Greenland so bad and why it's so essential that we have something like that. I don't know, but screw it. I'm buying. I already did buy because I don't care if it seems crazy. I just want to be early.